Welcome to this week's episode of the Crazy Catholic Podcast. I'm your host, Raph, joined by my amazing co-host, Giada. In today's episode, we are talking about strengthening your faith and your sense of community and just connection with other people. But today we have a special guest, the first guest of the podcast, my friend Jake. But before we get into it, let us remember that we are in the holy presence of God, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
As always, we're beginning with our verse of the day, which has to do with our overall topic of strengthening our faith. And this verse is from the book of Isaiah. We love Isaiah over here. We've got 2 verses from Isaiah already. And this verse says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand." Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. This verse in Isaiah comes directly from the Lord. It is his voice telling us to not be afraid. He is openly telling us that he will be with us, help us, and uphold us. This is a reminder that ultimately our faith comes from God, and he will strengthen our faith to believe him if we give him our trust. Dear God, help us to choose to put our trust in you on good days and bad days. Today, we have a very special guest, our friend Jake, who has been called here to talk about strengthening faith. Thank you for allowing him to trust you and to center his faith in you. May he continue on a path of strong faith, no matter where life takes him. Uphold him and be with him. And thank you, Lord, for bringing him here today to share his journey with you. And in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
All right. Thank you, Gigi, for the prayer. I think we should just hop skip to it. I guess we introduced Jake. Jake is my best friend. We have gone to the same high school. That's how we met each other. And he was accepted into an Ivy League school and will be heading there in the fall. So he has a bright future ahead of him. He's just a true example of how strengthening your faith can impact your life. I hope and pray that his story really captivates you to live out your own faith and you can really take and understand what he's talking about. So, Jake, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. How about you?
I am doing fantastic. I mean, it's just the process of we've just gone from just starting this podcast to now having guests on it is crazy. It's crazy Catholics. So yeah, I think we should just hop into your background. I think there are multiple points where you've grown since I know you the last 4 years, but I haven't really gotten deep with the context of what your story really holds. So let's just talk about where you come from.
Alrighty, so yeah, first of all, thank you very much for the show, for the shout out, and thank you very much for this wonderful invitation to this great podcast that has a wonderful goal in mind. I'll talk about my family. My family has always been Catholic, really, ever since we can remember. My family we're from South America. So it is pretty much expected of many people in South America, the majority of the population, to be Catholic because of the Spanish conquest and the Portuguese conquest, especially in Brazil. So in South America, as with a ton of families and about over definitely half of South Americans, really, we have come from a Roman Catholic family, and I believe ever since really the Spanish came to the Americas, that my family has been Catholic. So I really have seen that that's been kind of like basically the start of our faith, and it's just been passed down generation to generation. My great grandpa's still alive, and I'm thankful to have that. And I've spoke to him about hey, since when has our family been Catholic? And he would tell me, hey, basically ever since we can remember, because my grandpa, speaking in his words, his grandpa was also Catholic. So just having that lineage of pretty much everyone being Catholic really kind of captivated me and really helped me see that, hey, this faith has been pretty much a big tradition in our family, but it's also been a lifestyle in our family because of the way we live out our faith values and how we can connect it to absolutely everything we do, really. So Yeah, so we'll jump forward to a couple of years. So my family came to the United States early 2000s, late 1900s, and they came kind of with a goal in mind, with a mission, because there were push and pull factors that came along with their migration. Because push factors was kind of like economic and political instability in pretty much all of South America, because that was just a really rough period, because it was like right after the Cold War era, and there was a lot of problems with like communism, fascism, and whatnot, even still in South America, considering everyone pretty much went there, like when it came to governments and other authority figures. So there was a lot of economic instability. So that was the main a push factor that pushed my family to come here to the United States. Pull factor really was pursuing that American dream, pursuing that hope for the future, hope that we can have in kind of pursuing lifelong goals and pursuing success, I guess, in a sense, not just for themselves, but I guess for the people around them, because they definitely saw that they were leaving a community behind when they came to the US. So it was really just a big hope to have that upliftingness, that uplifting sense to themselves and to others, bringing that hope and joy to others, kind of like and being the sort of like pride of the family when it came to the success, the potential success they could have. So that was a big pull factor, and that was basically like the main pull factor that really brought them into the US specifically. So yeah, they've been here for a while, and they really built their life, I guess, up early 2000s. They built their life. They started getting their money, their jobs, and whatnot. So they were just really responsible with all the stuff they did, and they were trying their best to build the American dream. And then they were building their life, and they were like, hey, let's have offspring here in America. So then that's where I came along. So then I came along, and by that point they have basically like started to build their own life in a sense, because they were pretty much sustaining themselves at that point, and they're really helping sustain the family back home in South America. So it was really helpful. I guess it was really, our family dynamic was pretty strong back then, and because we really felt like we had that strength for each other and all of that. So I guess up to the point I was born, and right after, we really established ourselves in a nice little apartment. We bought new things. A lot of the stuff we had was new, recently bought. 6 months, like a lot of the stuff would be like bought within the last year. So that's like how new and how like, everything came to be, especially at that point in time, because I was born and they were like, hey, we're gonna buy a new crib, we're gonna buy a new sofa, TV, things like that. So it's definitely something that my family saw a hope in, and it was definitely like I guess in a sense of fresh new start in living life here in America. So I guess the first start was just arriving here. The second start was kind of having me and kind of saying, hey, we're gonna sustain ourselves.
Yeah, so your family, they came here, like you said, for the American dream, and then your entire childhood has been here. What moments from your childhood do you recall that helped you open your views of the world and kind of created a foundation for who you are and who you have become today, specifically with your family?
Yeah, so I ended right after I was born, and that was like up until I was like 1.5 years old, we were pretty much doing fine. We had a great path forward, and everything was going pretty well. However, when I was 1.5, fire swept through everything in our apartment, and we lost pretty much everything. We lost everything. We lost our belongings, our goods, TV, sofa, the crib that I had, all the other stuff that I had there, and pretty much the story that came along with that was we got out. Thankfully, we brought like the essentials, like this one bag of tax documents and whatnot, like birth certificates and stuff like that, because I was just born. So just all my documents of like birth and whatnot, and all those that come with that. So just having that bag and the blanket that I still have to this day. Blanket that I still have to this day in that bag. Those two things there have been really the foundation of kind of like what we have done to really keep ourselves like intact, I guess, as a family, like the essentials. Like if something ever happens, like we know where the bag is and we know where the blanket is as well. But definitely having that, because even up to today, we still have like a sort of like container or bag figure to really have everything in, just in case of an emergency or something like that of any sort. Really, I'm not saying that there will be another fire or anything like that, but just say in case of something going on, or just mundane tasks like filing taxes and whatnot. However, yeah, we lost everything, and it really felt like the American dream was really stuck, and it really felt like we were really at a standstill.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that story. I've never heard that story before, and just the fact that you were able to pick yourself back up again as a family is just a beautiful story. And especially, you were little guy, like 1.5, you said?
1.5.
So did you have any siblings at the time?
One sibling back home. However, I guess going to your point about sustaining ourselves, it did take some time. However, right after the fire, like being outside, looking at our building, looking at like windows blow up and kind of like blow out, explode and whatnot, we did get like immediate help. We saw the paramedics, firefighters, police officers, and like the Red Cross. They gave us temporary shelter. And actually, one of my dad's bosses organized a fundraiser for our family to just get us started again, because we really were trying our best to really get us started once more, because it was pretty much losing everything. We lost everything. We didn't have I believe we didn't have like a bank account or anything like that. So we were really starting from scratch once more. And it was definitely a hard time for them. But then ever since that point, they've really talked to me about how the community has been there pretty much since day one. We call that basically the third day one I'm mentioning here. But I guess the real day one of our family, the most recent day one, where our family really started their journey to, I guess, achieving the American dream, I guess, once more. Just having that hope and faith in that, and maintaining firm to the Catholic faith, because there was one item that got spared in the fire, and it was a portrait of now St. John Paul II. Keep in mind, this was before his sanctification in 2009 and beatification in 2012, and after his passing a couple years before that. But just seeing that kind of brought forth that faith to my family, and it's like, we're Catholic, and we saw that this image of St. John Paul II, now St. John Paul II, was saved, and just having that faith that God is pretty much still with us, because I guess through the saints, through the intercession of the saints and whatnot, and all the things that come together in that. But knowing that God is still with us really strengthened the faith in my family, and they really saw that the community around them was always centered through Christ, because a good majority of Latinos that come here to the United States are Catholic. And there's a big Catholic influx, I guess, even to this day right now, when it comes to Catholics coming to the U.S. And it's definitely been something where the church community where we grew up in, and the church community that we've always grown up with, because we went to 2 churches, but the current church we go to now is one of the biggest Latino parishes in the area around us.
I think the community sense is really fascinating. I mean, I've heard the countless amount of times I've heard the story. It's always striking to me that community aspect of when you go through that struggle, you have that community sense going into it. I think, going back to your, Latino heritage, it's very similar to my Latino heritage in that way that, we value community so much, and we lean on other people, and they, we can provide a space where they can lean on us too. Calling back to why my parents, immigrated here, it's like they also wanted to create a better life, right? They're providing for their families. I think the whole culmination of it is service, right? How do you serve other people? It is about being that suffering servant, trying to show by example of how you should, serve others, connect with that community that you are trying to build. And through struggle, you try to learn new things, and you try to ultimately try to build on multiple day ones that you have to create a better space for you and your family.
Absolutely. And I guess ever since then, and kind of looking back at the story and just kind of thinking about the story and how it connects to my faith, I've truly valued community, and I've have found ways to see who is my community. I kind of have different like tiers to my community of closeness, not necessarily of importance, but of closeness, because I really believe all the communities that surround me are pretty much equally as important. However, I do have like tiers of like closeness. That's what I usually like focus on. It's like, hey, the closest tier is like, hey, the people who live with me, my nuclear family, my parents. Then it goes out and out. It's like close friends and relationships, out school community, out like the people in my parish, out, just expanding that approach and kind of saying that my community is much bigger than I guess what I would initially think, but just having that comfort that first of all, that we, at the point that I was talking about earlier, that the community is there for me, having such a big community that can be there for me has really been comforting for me. And I guess in a sense, another thing is that we can serve the community, that kind of like how you were talking about, Ref, that we can serve the community. The way we've really thought about it is kind of like, how can we be with the community, instead of like, say, how can we have a one-way relationship? Instead of saying that, it's like, how can we have a two-way relationship where we have we are really included within the community, and the community accepts us, and that we really accept the people that surround us, regardless of their background, identity, and whatnot. But it's definitely something where I've really seen that I really cherish these connections that I've had. And I found it essential to live out my general Christian beliefs in pretty much everyday situations and all that I do, while strengthening the communities around me with what I know about my Catholic beliefs, and stuff like the gifts of the Holy Spirit and all of that have really helped me really support the communities around me and be with the communities that have surrounded me, and really be grateful and appreciative of those people that have helped us along the way, and also how we can support others if they're going through similar challenges. Like, we know a family that is going through some challenges currently, but we're supporting them in the way we can, and it's been really helpful for them, and we really feel like we are grateful to have their presence, because it's like we are grateful to help other people. As long as we can help other people, we feel pretty much happy, grateful for those opportunities that we're given. And it's definitely something where I'm appreciative of the community around us, and making personal connections and has been really a strong suit of mine, and something that I also like to add, because it's not necessarily just groups and groups and groups. It's also making those deep personal connections with people in whatever aspect, but just trying to connect closer to people, even if it's in different ways with different people, and with different people in the circle I was talking about, the expanding circle. I still have hope in making those connections with the people around me, and I hope to really connect with them.
Yeah, your story is just so powerful, and I'm so blessed that I get to hear it today, because the fact that God was able to still instill that faith in you and your family, and to give you that sense of community, and just the resilience to just not give up after something horrible like that happens, especially moving to this country for that American dream and having it taken away from you and building it back up. It's just such a beautiful example of faith, and your story is just very powerful, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm grateful to have this opportunity to share it with you guys.
There's just a lot of aspects of community that is clearly listed in what you talked about. It's just amazing that the way everything comes together when you're surrounded by people who truly care and who truly want the best for you and support you, right? And so when you look past that, right, you're going into, let's say, you're going to elementary now. You're learning more things. You're growing up. And with growing up, you have many different new experiences that you will face. And, like in middle school, I had, my English teacher. She was really, a really well-spoken person who I looked up to and tried to make sense of the world with. It was very trying to grow with him and trying to meet where we both could learn and try to understand one another. So were there any like people that you connected with or grew up with or looked up to and saw like, oh, these are the things that I wanted to be like when I grow up, or these are the qualities that I find that makes the best, man of God?
Yeah, absolutely. I hope to cover a couple of things here, but I'll just start real quick with, I guess, my parents, first of all, just because they have been really helpful and they've been really supporting in everything that I've done. Even if they couldn't necessarily help me with like school material or not, they would always be supportive of the things I would do. I guess the thing could be like, hey, I want to pursue this activity. Okay, go for it. Yeah, just having that support for me and just that overwhelming support has been really, really helpful for my success and really helping others in that mission to help others. But I'll cover 4 events right now when it comes to my growth as a person and then as a person that of faith. So what I'll start with is my leaving my elementary school and going into middle school. So I had it pretty rough in elementary school because there would be a lot of issues on a lot of different aspects, such as student body issues, faculty issues, and whatnot. So I decided to leave that school, and I really said, hey, I want something new, because I guess it was time to really move on from that elementary school. And I guess another thing was kind of like, again, supporting the community. So I went to my middle school, pretty close to where I lived at that time. And it was actually a majority of Hispanics. And it was a really pretty much uplifting community, because before that, it was like everyone was different in a sense, but having everyone kind of be raised the same way, have grown up the same way, because say over half of the student body at that school would be raised pretty much the same way I did, with their family immigrating from countries south of the US up to here and trying to achieve that American dream and kind of trying to do their best for their family. Just being surrounded by these like-minded people in a sense has really been something that has really benefited me. And when it comes to my faith, I'd say it wasn't something where I wasn't believing. However, it wasn't something where I was like a devout believer. Like I could only comprehend so much when I was in 6th grade going into this new middle school. But it was definitely something where I kind of move things around, I guess, personally. Like, hey, I'm gonna first focus on pretty much getting used to this new environment. I'm still gonna go to mass every Sunday with my parents and whatnot. However, just kind of having this new environment with me has been kind of my priority in a sense. And I really saw my faith just be in a real plateau. Like, okay, I believed in God, I would recite the creed and whatnot. However, it would just be pretty much, it would flatline at that point. However, middle of my 6th grade year, this comes at the second event, and responding to the main question that was asked, I met this person. Every single day we would get this little mini anecdote. Every single day we would have lunch, and every single day pretty much everyone would get their lunch from the same lunch line. And the thing is that at the end of the lunch line, you would have the little pay counter and whatnot, where you'd put your pin or your fingerprint or whatnot to, pay for your lunch and whatnot. So at the end of that line, there was this person named Jake. Yeah, pretty much the same name as me, and which I think is pretty coincidental, pretty much. And we'll talk about that later. But just a wonderful person. He and I saw him, he would always have a smile at the end of the line, because he would uplift those people. He would uplift all the students because of his smile and because of his positive attitude towards situations. It wasn't necessarily the richest school, it wasn't necessarily the school where everyone was well off either. So definitely seeing that smile despite any circumstances that might be going on was really uplifting, because in a sense I was kind of rocked myself from elementary school years to my middle school years, but kind of seeing that positive smile really made a positive difference within me to really move forward. And I guess lunch is the replenishment first of the stomach, but then lunch is pretty much the replenishment of energy. And you can use this energy to really make soulful decisions and good decisions. And just having that lunch paired along with a positive experience that you can always tie back to was wonderful, and it really helped me kind of like see myself in a new way, see what I can do in a new way, how I can really serve others, because I really saw that smile that I would see every single day as a sort of like service, because it was just really and it really shaped who I was, and it still pretty much shapes who I am, trying my best to be as positive as possible. Unfortunately, that story did get cut short because he passed around 3/4 of the way into the school year, and it was pretty hard for me. And I guess also in the future, it was looking back at it, especially a couple years ago, I kind of did tear up about just thinking about the whole story, just because it was really overwhelming at the time that I couldn't necessarily process any emotions. But then the emotions ended up catching up to me, because this was a person that at that point, and I guess to today, and for like my life now, it has really shaped me to be who I am, and just kind of in a sense continuing his legacy of being as positive as possible for everyone despite their circumstances. That whole going back to the lunchroom situation has been really just uplifting for me, kind of taking on that responsibility to serve and to have like hope that stuff can get better in a sense. So that also pretty much kickstarted something with my faith, because I really saw that with this positivity that I now kind of pretty much like soulfully inherited from him, I really was able to connect with other people, and I was really able to connect with my faith and see that my faith can be used in a positive sense, instead of just being, we'll go to mass every Sunday and we'll follow God and we'll say the prayers that we have to say. No, just having that sort of renewal within me and say that, okay, I can use my faith to be positive and can use this as kind of like a baseline cornerstone of what my character can be towards other people. If it can be a positive one, if it can be an uplifting one, if it can be like just kind of in a holistic sense, one that can help others. And that's where I also tie back to community, because it's also just been really, really wonderful to have this community around me, and kind of he helped me be grateful for the community. Just like at the end of the day, the only thing he really the only thing you would see necessarily if you were just like a passerby was him being happy at the lunchtime. But then if you look deeper, and I guess if you looked into what I was thinking and what I was seeing for him, is all the things that I've mentioned previously, and also being grateful for the community that he's in, being grateful for the position he's been in, no matter, I guess, the situation, but being grateful for something. And I really hope to emphasize that later. But just he's been a wonderful role model in my middle school years, and it was my first year of middle school too, so I guess in a sense it kind of lit that fire inside of me to really change the way I can think about things, and change the way I can progress myself and others in the community around me.
So, I mean, that is another story that just really shows how resilient you are in your faith, and just persistent, because especially as a child, to have to deal with that and comprehend what it is to lose someone. Loss is one of the hardest things that a human being can go through, especially someone who is such a role model to you. And then thinking about the timeline, up ahead you had the pandemic coming. That was a time of loss for everybody. And how did you deal with that as a kid? Because I think we all dealt with it differently, especially after going through losing a friend.
Yeah. So I continuing off the 4-point story, the Jake person was the second point, but now the third point is kind of going into COVID, really. After a certain point in my middle school career, I felt like I reached another plateau, and it really felt like stuff was really just routine again, starting to get routine again. Okay, like I'd have a sort of like hope and joy for the community, but then eventually it just flatlined, and I felt like I wasn't necessarily making progress in a sense when it came to what I could do, my potential and whatnot. Right before COVID, at the start of my 8th grade year, I was chosen to be the student body president of my middle school. So I was able to really serve my community there. And even though it was a small school and pretty much everyone knew each other, it was still pretty nice to have that sort of leadership through representation, because I really felt like I was representing the needs of the people around and of the middle school as a representative, and I was kind of leading those efforts, kind of being together with that student council. And even though we were really young, like 14 years old and whatnot, it would be kind of like quite a rewarding experience to really learn about all the things that come with representation, like not necessarily explicitly, but just with my experience and the stuff I have done, like say programs. I've done a couple of programs before really 8th grade, and other things where I would be kind of like the gifted student in a sense, and people would like look up to me and would kind of like ask me questions about school and whatnot. I'd help people like with tutoring, with like little one-on-one tutoring during homeroom, and it would be pretty nice then. However, COVID came right near the end of the school year, and it was 8th grade, so it was pretty much a transition out of high school. But it really felt like it was really heartbreaks on that, because it was something where, first of all, as everyone said, and the word we all learned throughout that time, unprecedented. It was definitely something where I really didn't know how to react at the start, but I felt like I really saw a lot of things change, because then not too long after the COVID lockdowns happened, May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was killed. So looking at that anecdote and just seeing the injustice that was committed, people saw a chance to unite and really progress the social issues, such as defending civil rights once more, kind of having that equality once more, looking for justice when it came to this murder, and just coming together as a community, despite the fact that we did have to like social distance and whatnot. I just saw like the community come together in such a cause, and such a strong cause, that I felt like I was trying my best. I didn't go to any like protests or any demonstrations or anything like that, because it was still COVID lockdown time. However, I did see the community be together then, and despite all the circumstances that were going on, I really felt that I was really being uplifted, because I saw the potential of what community could do, really achieve unity through this matter of social justice, and this matter of coming together to really not just support this one issue, but just support each other as well, and being with each other, united, as I've said a couple of times. But definitely something where I was really uplifted myself. And going back to the fire story when we lost everything, it was definitely something where I really found that great connection. It's like, hey, people came together, and even if it was just a small group of paramedics, firefighters, Red Cross, and police officers, it was still a sort of community that came together and supported us and supported that one cause, which was kind of restoring our family, restoring that faith in the American dream that we wanted to have. So it was definitely something where COVID really, in a sense, helped me, in a sense, like spiritually and in my sense of community, because I've always really wanted to emphasize that community within me, as I mentioned previously. But over that summer, my kind of like hope for the community and whatnot really grew, because it's just been something where I saw now unity. So now it was like being with the community and being hopeful for the community of the stuff they can do. And so then near the end of that year, 2020, I started freshman year, so that was pretty interesting. And it was just something where it was really hard to get through because it was wacky to say the least. Wacky times, weird schedules, weird formats of having people on campus, and plus the masks and social distancing. It was all a really tough time, but I really felt that I had a ton of opportunity to do the things I wanted to do. I guess build my own community at the school, and it definitely was a lot of trial and error. And there were a lot of things that I really tried to do. Of course, there would be errors and whatnot, but I guess I saw them as an opportunity to grow when it came to building connections, building friendships, and kind of seeing if I were to make a people group, a friend group. It was really hard freshman and sophomore year, so it was just really hard. So I didn't really make that friend group or anything like that. I just felt like I was just myself that happened to have a friend scattered around the school. However, I did see that it was really an opportunity for me to kind of experiment in a sense now what I have learned, what I have gained within myself, that hope for the community, that sense of unity where I can really be united with the community. Yeah, where I can really serve the community and help all those around me. So I guess just trying my best to implement it in the high school sense. That's what the big fourth event is, just going into high school and trying my best to use these quote-unquote tactics to improve my high school experience, or just to really test out all these things I valued and learned about community.
I think it's just fascinating, the going through that same experience with you. It's weird, right? Our freshman year, it was just, yeah, like you said, like a mix of new experiences. You were going from, back in, 8th grade to seeing your teacher every day, seeing the other classmates that you had. And now you're just on a computer screen, and you're just like, oh, I'm like, I don't know how to act, right? You just like, I feel like your active integrity was really challenged at that point. Like, do you not pay attention, or do you are you doing what you're supposed to do? But I remember freshman year, my first memory of you, I think it was, I think I told this, like, it was during band, because we are band kids, so.
Cringe. I'm just kidding. I'm a choir kid and a theater kid. Of course that happened.
Right. It's just, it was, you were talking to the band teacher, and I'm like, who is this guy talking to you were just talking so much, and it really was, like, looking back at it, it was really a trial and error time for you. You really tried to try many things with the COVID restrictions in concern, right? But you tried to build, relationships with the people you could. And, I remember not, the specifics of the conversations, but the conversations that we've had at the end of our freshman year, where we got to see each other. And you weren't at the trumpet side. You're still playing baritone. So, but it was just funny. Just to, like, every interaction, it was you trying to lighten the mood. Sometimes it was too much, but but you learned. But, like, what kind of qualities did you see in other people, or did you notice that you want to have in your life moving forward, or what qualities did you struggle trying to I don't want to say fix, but try to improve on?
Yeah, as you talked about, definitely the visual signs of my trial and error were definitely you could definitely see those, and it was definitely something where I tried my best to put myself out there, tried myself to put myself and make my voice just be heard in a sense, even if it wasn't necessarily a political position in the student government at our school or anything like that. Just kind of seeing if I can build this image for myself in a sense, hopefully a positive one. And I always had that hope to really build that positive one and not one where people kind of like resent me or anything like that, because I really hope to have those connections. And I really hope that with that people can really gain these skills, I guess, in a sense, when I connect with people, especially these deep interactions that I have. I definitely want to try my best to kind of incorporate these skills of like community and like upliftingness and like joyfulness, hopefully, to other people. But the qualities I have seen, I guess, in other people is kind of like sociability and kind of like openness to new opportunity, because I definitely had openness to new opportunities left and right, because my mom would sign me up for all these programs all the time. But just seeing that for myself, trying to do that myself really, and seeing others do it in a sense, seeing other people like kind of start talking with other people and kind of building those friendships there, kind of seeing how I can try that out for myself in a sense, try that sociability and try that openness to be with others at that point. And I guess especially near the end of COVID, I tried my best to build closer connections, like actual connections where I could have my people group. I definitely wouldn't be best friends with everybody, and I acknowledge that ever since COVID started, because it definitely is ambitious goal that I really wish to really kind of like put aside, because it isn't necessarily something where you want to have the closest connection with absolutely everybody, because there's so many people around you, around me, around everyone, that it's kind of hard to make these connections. But trying your best to have these connections with that, even if it's someone in the hallway that you want to say hi to and that says hi back, I see that as a connection, as a sort of like friendship in a sense, even if it's like a person in a different grade that you pass by the hallway at the same time every single day. It's something where you really start to build that little connection with people, and you start to say, hey, I'm expanding my community, I'm expanding my approach, and hopefully I can use the values that I learned to help others. And it really has been something, and it's really been a quality that has really grown within me throughout my high school years, really, because with trial and error, thankfully this trial became a little bit more successful as time went on, as the years went on. But it's definitely been something where I've tried my best to truly establish the connections that I've had to be stronger and to be more prominent, really, to really support others, and really, in a sense, when it comes to these deeper connections like this, it's really kind of helping other people build a lifestyle of their own, like especially if I'm trying to help them in any way, or if they seek my help, I really try my best to really connect with them through this quote-unquote lifestyle building, little by little. It wouldn't necessarily be a direct lesson, because you're in school already. You don't want to have another like topic and whatnot where you want to take notes and whatnot. I guess it's just something that just has come inherently, kind of like when it came to the Jake story in the lunch line. It wasn't necessarily something where he would be like, be nice to people or anything like that. He would just be nice himself, and he would live his own life. So just inheriting those qualities, just like in a sense subconsciously, but in a sense kind of really thinking about what you can do better, has been something where I have really strengthened myself, and hopefully strengthen others.
For sure. I mean, you're still doing it right now. Like, I think I didn't see those first early years of high school for you, so I'm glad that we can talk about it now. Because I popped in your junior year as a freshman, and the first time I talked to you was about a month into my freshman year. We were on a panel together, And you immediately just made such a nice connection and were so friendly. And then, I didn't really talk to you much until later on this year, my sophomore year, your senior year. And you just seem to have such a good grasp on how to build connections with other people. And, that's such a great quality to have, which kind of leads me to my next question, because I know that those first 2 years of high school, you were focusing on building communities and kind of bettering your experience through COVID. But how has your faith specifically transformed in that transition from middle school to high school?
Yeah. So pretty much, I guess, going past that fourth point of 4 points that I was making, I guess, I started seeing the dignity of people. I really started seeing the sanctification of others, and I really felt that this was a really gifting experience to have, to really connect with other people. And throughout my high school years, I started to build on the notion that the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, and that lesson that comes with reading the scriptures and following pretty much the word of God, really having that dignification of people and seeing that people can do good, and people, through the grace of God, through the Holy Spirit, can really do great, kind of like the apostles did a long time ago. And in Jesus' time, the Holy Spirit coming down to them on Pentecost Day to really give them the fire to really spark fires in other people and to really connect with others. And I've really seen that be a lesson, and I've really seen my values at the time really connect with that, because I really have seen that my faith has really grown in high school, I guess, in a sense, with the basic sense, like mass is now more enjoyable, prayer is now more enjoyable, stuff like that. But I guess in a deeper sense, where my values really go hand in hand with my faith. So where I kind of like to see it as kind of like a layered cake in a sense. Yeah, going to the topic of food. Yeah.
My favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the bottom cake is the foundation, the cornerstone of everything that I've done, and that's pretty much my faith. And I guess up to high school, the second layer of community would be a little bit separated, and it wouldn't necessarily be something that would go hand in hand with faith, but just going through high school and having these experiences of positive community, positive connections, and the impact that could make on other people really made these two really go together and become the cornerstone of me, and become this new sort of hybrid, in a sense, cornerstone, where faith and community are pretty much equal in my values and in my being, really. And I really have seen that with this sanctification of others, with the sanctification that I have put on the community, I really have seen that it's really something truly gifting to be able to, first of all, have the opportunity to help people, serve people, and be with people, and second of all, to actually act upon what I want to do to serve people, be with people, and really be with the community that I really want to really love, cherish, support, care for. So it's definitely going back to a previous point I talked about with the apostles. I really have tried my best to really build the sort of lifestyle with other people, and kind of sparking that flame in other people. Some people have a certain flame, but they kind of want to learn from me, in a sense. It's not necessarily something explicit, because I don't think I've really had explicit conversations when it's come to these types of things. I guess today is an exception, but throughout these last couple of years in high school, it's definitely been something where I have really sparked a new flame, or else kind of engulfed a good fire in people to really spread these great values of interlocked faith and community, and then openness, willingness, and hope to be with the community, and having this positiveness to really serve others and to really live out the mission that Jesus really intended, to love thy neighbor as yourself.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the main goal at the end of the day for every Christian, is just to live out what Jesus taught us, and you're 100% an example of that, and to remain in that strong faith and to continue growing in that faith in your life, especially as a person who has suffered a lot, especially in your early childhood. And I think the resilience to keep going and the strength to continue to have faith in the dark times, or in the valley of the shadow of death, to quote scripture, it is what gets us through this life. It's this journey of this never-ending uphill battle and the constant struggles that we have to go through to get to our end goal. That is really what we're doing this podcast for. So it's great that we can share these stories about struggle, but come out on the other side and have a great community and have that faith and that strength. So yeah, I'm just very glad we can talk about this. It's awesome.
It is why we created it. So
yeah,
I think it's just, going through life, it's, knocking you down and trying to be as big as a pain as it is, but you have, your community that you talk about, that you surround yourself with. And when you going through that freshman and sophomore year, you have, those, friends that you create, and those deeper bonds you try to create with the people around you. You have different types of people you want to surround yourself with, right? And that you want to surround yourself in that environment where you are comfortable, but you want to be pushed to better yourself, right? And like when I think about, developing myself, right? We talked about in episode 2 of how the teachers and staff at the school that you're going to play a critical role in students' lives, right? And what physics teacher I'm talking about here. He deserves to be mentioned, 100%. But I want to see like the impact that teachers like that has impact, right? Because you have obviously him. That one's pretty obvious, right? I know there's a snippet into we'll talk about next, but that junior and senior year, that's where he started to appear more, and so did our government teacher, right? So we established that baseline. Freshman year, we talked to him, separately. Obviously, we didn't really, but we've gotten to know him over the 4 years, and then the conversations just got deeper and deeper and deeper, and then it was developed into a friendship of bouncing ideas off each other, no matter, even if it wasn't about faith, it was about, politics, where sometimes I remember like from my conversations, we were talking about like predicting World War III or trying to, develop, chess ideals in, winning, since, chess was the craze at the time. But, just what kind of examples did the teachers at our high school like show you, and did they, did that leave an impact on you, or did it, say, oh, that's cool, I can apply that to my own life, or was like, I think I have something different where I would kind of go for? So
Yeah. So my first in-person teacher and our third to last in-person teacher, the government teacher you mentioned, I had him for another social studies class freshman year, and it was definitely rewarding to be able to, first of all, meet him as much as I could, because it wasn't necessarily something where I would be in his room outside of class. I would only be in his room for class. However, I would try my best to really again, going back to the trial and error, try my best to be as positive as I can in the classroom setting, and having a true inspiration to learn the content, despite, even if it's something where it's not necessarily like, okay, where am I going to use this in the future or anything like that. Just having that motivation to learn in general, and I guess learning how to learn as well. But it's definitely been something where I got to know him and he got to know me, And in the last day of school, in the last class I had freshman year, he was like, hey, we had like a quick 2-minute conversation, like, and he told me like, hey, you're really a good guy, in general, it's kind of like my interpretation of what I heard him say. He was like, hey, you're a good guy, and I really appreciate you. Thank you for being a positive figure in the school, and thank you for being a positive figure in the classroom. I hope high school goes well. So basically that was kind of like my a big stepping stone in being ready for the years to come. Sophomore, junior, senior year. But then senior year, thankfully I had him again, and but I did form a connection with him because after freshman year, I would go to his classroom outside of class and like after school or perhaps before school, and I would just talk about topics like, hey, how's your day been and whatnot, and then we would get into topics about like his family, and then we would get to topics and stuff like that, and and about his community and whatnot. And it's definitely been a rewarding experience to see how he has made a positive impact in his community through his faith as well. And because his community, of course, with a lot of people, is his nuclear family, his wife and his children. But it's definitely been something where I have kind of gained that inspiration as well, and kind of seen that connection with my values and his values, and how I can gain that specific like lesson that he had, I guess, for me at the time, to really develop myself as a person, even though I'm not married or have kids or anything like that. It's definitely something where I can really incorporate to like the general lessons I can really incorporate to my specific situations, such as like my close friends, my parents, and other people I'm really close to. So it's definitely been something that I've really appreciated about him. And then once we did get to our senior year, and we started talking about the government class, it's really been something where we were really getting into points like political polarization and stuff like that, and just kind of taking on a new challenge, because I've definitely liked to be challenged most of the time. Like, it's definitely like being challenged has definitely been something that I really try my best to enjoy as much as possible, because tackling a challenge and overcoming a challenge or finding a solution to the challenge has definitely been rewarding, and just kind of having that hope to go through that challenge has been really good for me. But I guess in this sense, when it came to these talks about government, ever since kind of my junior year, we kind of touched on it little by little, but senior year especially, because I was in his government class and I would go to his classroom pretty much every day after school. So after pretty much through that, it was definitely a good challenge though, to kind of see how I can incorporate my values that I've learned and the values that I have really seen within myself to this new situation, which is government and politics in the United States, which has been really helpful for me, because I've definitely seen how it can connect. I guess an example I could tell you guys right now about my experience about connecting. It's been hey, my goal is kind of like uplifting the community and progressing what the community wishes for. And then talking about social justice and representation, I was really seeing like, hey, being a representative in like Congress or like the legislature or whatever can really help you really progress the ideas of your community, which then connects back to, again, like the community I was talking about. Like, hey, how can I help the community? And now just putting it in pretty much literal examples that I could really use in the future, and and I guess I've done it with other fields as well, but especially with government, that was really something I really cherished, because I would talk with them every single day, and we would just take a deep dive in how values really connect to just contemporary political issues and stuff like that, because it's something where I really wish to have that connection. And and it was pretty much the challenge to make connections there was overcome with what I was able to do.
I think it's kind of shocking we have not ran into each other of meeting and his room. I think ironically enough, also remember a time where I walked to his room. Okay, FYI, I was not a good academic student my freshman year, so I was struggling. But I remember walking to his classroom towards the end of the year. I'm like, okay, is this good enough to save my grade so I don't fail this class? And he was like, no, yeah. And then, it's just talking with him. It's so easy to just talk into a different subject and then it just
Yeah.
go into somewhere like
Deep dive and everything.
right. Yeah. It's like on the surface level, he's like, all right, he's just a standard social studies teacher. But right, when you start more talking to him and talking, and then you're like, oh my gosh, there are so many layers that he knows, and the depth of knowledge that he has is just really fascinating. I mean, I think for me, it was definitely that physics teacher. That's where I got. Yeah, that's your government teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, the connection, similarities.
But yeah, so
and I really believe that these good connections is good to make because they can really serve as role models in your life, and he's definitely been like a second role model. And I told him about the lunch person Jake story as well, and we kind of made that connection, and we definitely talked a lot about that and how I can really use that to uplift my values. And I guess conversations with him have really helped me really make those connections between anecdotes and what my goals, values, and pretty much ambitions are when it comes to community and unity, because unity is in community, trying our best to be united as much as possible. And
Well, I think that uniting community, and especially in a political landscape, like you said, is a great way to use faith in action, because according to you and your experiences, you just have this really good understanding of faith, and you've taken a lot of steps to strengthen that faith. And I think it's really cool that you use that in ways to evoke change in communities and in a political sense too, because that's so important right now, especially in the country we live in this day and age with the election coming up. There's so much stress and turmoil and hatred from one side to the other and the other side to that side, and there's so much chaos and uncertainty and lack of understanding, lack of patience. And it's important to have people like you, people of faith, who are patient and are unbiased in situations like that, which is why it's really cool that you're going to that Ivy League school, which will remain unnamed, because that's just such a big deal for multiple reasons. But also, you're going to have that status going into the world, and being able to use those skills that you gain there and that experience that you gain there to make a change, and in a faithful way. So I think that faith in action is very important, and it's important to use it. And how do you plan to do that going forward in your life?
Yeah, I guess going back to your first points, you definitely knocked it out of the park when you talked about that. It's definitely something that I really held true to, trying my best to really see it from a holistic stance and trying to see it from a big point of view. I guess to add on to your points of the political polarization and all the issues that have been going on, such as blaming and whatnot. I definitely have seen it, as recently I read an article about how arguments form, and I guess how we can really solve arguments. A way I really have seen that, I guess, ever since reading that article, is that especially when it comes to common goals, like what are the ways we want to achieve these common goals, and kind of like what are the differences, or like what can we really have a compromise on to really unite in this goal seeking. An anecdote I like to use is an anecdote I heard about is about two people and about like connections. We'll talk about connections. So person A is mentioned the point to person B that social media is a good way to make connections, because it helps you make connections with people and you can create good connections. However, person B said that to make these connections, we really need to be in person, and social media is kind of distracting ourselves from that. And then person A was talking about how this social media can still help make these strong connections with people despite the screen or distance or whatnot. But I guess looking at that situation from a top-down approach, really, or like a bottom-up approach, where we really see what's the baseline of this conversation. So with this conversation between person A and B, it's really like how we can make closer and deeper connections. Like our ways of interpreting how we can get that done or how we can achieve that goal are different, I guess, between person A and person B. Person A advocating for social media usage and person B advocating for not so much cell phone usage. However, keeping those goals in mind and keeping those values intact when it comes to progressing and trying to look and striving for common goals such as, say, liberty, freedom, especially in the US, liberty, freedom, and all these things that come along with American society, I guess, ever since it's been formed, 1776, 1789, with all the different government changes and all that. It definitely is something where we can really see how we can grow on, just kind of see, hey, what's the common goal, and how can we either compromise on something together, or where we join things together, or find a way to have things go hand in hand. Like, say, with a situation with person A and B, either how we can connect these two, like social media usage and in-person conferencing, versus, and perhaps the second option being just seeing how we can have both in a sense, because in a lot of situations we can have both outcomes be working hand in hand. And it's definitely been something where it's helpful to work with either one, or kind of find your own solution to a problem. As long as you find a solution where people are content, it won't necessarily be something where people are having full approval of it, but it's something that it's acceptable when people are content with. And I guess the way this goes to the to my faith really is uniting this community, and having this unity together, because in our end goal is kind of to be a nation united. And then, as the Pledge of Allegiance said, it says one nation under God. So just saying, hey, together we are stronger, and together we can serve the Lord, instead of saying, hey, we are divided and you can't be my friend and you're against me and you're against common values and whatnot. No, but instead finding that unity with each other to really progress these values of a community, serving each other and whatnot. Because Psalm 33:12 says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And to add on that, just kind of like united in God, because we want to be one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible is a thing we really want to focus on, like how we can really not divide our opinions, but really bring them together and bring those common goals together to really progress what we want to progress, whether it's social issues, even if it's not necessarily an explicit religious topic, even if it's like a social issue or like something mundane, like, hey, we're going to talk about how we can lower agricultural prices of blank, 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 just like finding a common goal in everything, at least trying our best to really find that compromise, because that is how the nation formed, through compromises. Like, that's how the Constitution was written. That's how everything came together to form what the United States is today, and how we interact with other nations, etc. So it's definitely been something where united, we really stand stronger. And if we are united in Christ, we can really progress those values of really social justice and really helping others, serving the communities we love the most. When it comes to these, there are a lot of different ways people can interpret these things, such as social justice and serving the communities. However, the common goal of social justice, serving the communities. Just these two little tidbits of examples that I've given. Just progressing those two in general is something that we really want to seek unity in.
Well, I mean, even in this room right here, I think from what Raph has told me, like the three of us have differing opinions, and yet we're still able to have civil conversations, and I think that is so needed right now. And so I completely agree with you on that point about it's all about making compromise, right? And to me, I think understanding faith, and part of being a person of faith is having faith to know that what you're doing is right, but also other people can believe different things, and that's okay. And it's good to be surrounded by people who have differing thoughts than you. And like, what is your definition of faith, especially in these circumstances when you're up against people who don't always agree with you? What is your perspective on how to use faith in a context like that?
So I guess when it comes to using faith really and having faith in action, I guess a way I've really seen faith is just kind of as I've said for the last couple of points said with the whole conversation I've had for the last hour or so. It's been really trying your best to really support yourself and support others. How I can really, the way we can really understand faith is, I guess, through social interaction is also a good point that we could really cover, because social interaction has also been something where we can have this unity and have these connected thoughts such as we have now. Yeah, we definitely have our ideological differences on certain topics and whatnot. However, the common goal, I guess, at the moment is to really help each other, learn from each other, and to really uplift each other when it comes to connecting with our faith, really, and having this unity with each other, and to have this sort of communion with each other. Because I sat on to a previous point, I talked about being united in Christ is something we really want to do, because I have two things I want to cover right now. So first of all, being united in Christ, being one with Christ, because I have seen that the nation that Psalm 33 verse 12 says can be all the people united in one belief that, Christ is King, Christ is God, and all that, the stuff that comes with the Nicene Creed and all that. That can be our nation. Of course, our nation can be interpreted in many different ways. However, that common goal, that common belief that Christ is God, and all of the things that come along with the Christian Catholic faith, is definitely something where we can really be united as a nation, one body with Christ, together with Christ, in communion with Christ. And then another thing I really want to talk about right now is serving others as Jesus served others. So you have God. So you have Jesus in the Last Supper. He said, "This is my body, which will be given out for you." So just kind of giving yourself out to people, and kind of giving the best version of yourself to people around you, and saying, "Hey, this can be me. This is me. This is how I can help you." We can be connected, we can have this connection through that, because when we do take the Holy Communion, we do have a full communion with Christ. And even just being practicing Catholic, you have a communion with Christ, like a one-on-one relationship with Christ. I guess through the church as well, but like that one-on-one relationship with Christ, and having that, I guess, unity with that can really help you be united with other people. But then further point I want to elaborate on is serving other people, because God, Jesus, washed the disciples' feet in pretty much a couple of days leading up to his crucifixion and his resurrection. However, just having this service to other people has been really can be really an example of how we can serve others, and also give ourselves up for others, to be united with others, because we're not just giving up. We're not giving up everything. We're maintaining by giving ourselves up and giving our talents up, our service up, not necessarily giving it up like losing it, but like giving it to other people and helping other people through our talents and through our resources that we have, such as I mentioned earlier, helping another family, like say economically and whatnot. But having that willingness to serve really helps sanctify you and sanctify all of those around you. And that's where it's really helpful to really create this sanctification of pretty much the whole world in general when it comes to the population that we have, and the opportunity there is to really connect with others and be sanctified, sanctifying yourself, of course, but then also making sure you, as I said in a previous point, light up the fire in other people, or like help expand the fire and make it like bigger, brighter, so that it can help other people, you know. So it's not just you helping another person, but you kind of sending that mission out to other people to really expand that good message of, hey, we want to be together, we want to be united. Kind of like how the disciples were sent out 2 by 2 to preach the word. I guess in a sense, we are never alone. First of all, we're together with Christ, and second of all, we definitely have someone we can connect to, and there are people who want to connect with you, most definitely. And I guess if it does feel like there isn't anyone yet, there will definitely be, with good hope, there will be someone that you can connect to that can really help you in anything that's going on, you know. Like definitely have to make a quick mention about like mental health and stuff like that. Definitely talking about that is essential, and having that advocacy out is essential. But going back to the spiritual sense, having that sense of like unity and comfort, where you feel comfortable in knowing and feel glad and relieved in knowing that there's someone out there that really wants to connect with you. That there is someone that you are connected to, that you can share these things with, that you can kind of like say pair up and really like join those fires together and really spread that fire even greater distances to help outreach that mission, and to really have that those connections with other people, because it doesn't necessarily have to be just one person. It can be definitely a lot of other people. Like say I've had a connection with you, I've had a connection with Raf, and definitely a lot of other people that I've talked to in the past and that I currently talk to today as well. It's definitely been something where I can really help myself, help others, and really be united through Christ, as Christ intended for us to be united.
I think the impact that you're so ambitious to make, which it's a good ambition, but you've definitely grown, your past, the past years, going back to high school, but it's like, your junior and senior year, just I think were a culmination of all the life lessons and the skills that you picked up during that trial and error phase in the first half of high school. But growing up, and you really started to go out, and you could really see the service in action, faith in action at that senior level, right? When you talk about your senior year, right, you talk about the Latino Club, founding that and trying to advocate, but trying to work with the school to hit certain areas that you are passionate for, but also just like creating the effect of serving others and trying to again be that suffering servant. And like you said, when Jesus in the Last Supper, you're trying to wash your disciples' feet and trying to be that role model for the followers that you will ultimately have. But during specifically with CMT, right, that was just like a prime example of you just going out toward it. And I like that you mentioned social media in the way that it's how do you connect with people, right? And then it's the dangers of the trolls online or whatever, and the bad images that are present on platforms such as IG and X. Yeah, so it's like you have to be cautious. I mean, even with, right, and I mean, Gigi and I talked about this, but we've even with just, faith, or Christian or Catholic, even Catholic, reels or posts, you go to the comment section and it's like, yo,
Yeah.
it's like warfare. Like it's a battleground where everyone's trying to like, no, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct.
I saw this one the other day. It was like this girl, she's like sitting on the beach and she was like saying a prayer, and then she was like letting God decide which book of the Bible I'm gonna read. And so she like set the Bible down, and then like the wind like fluttered through the pages. It was just like this sweet, like innocent video on Instagram Reels. And like she was like, oh, I guess I'm reading the book of Revelation or something like that. And all of the people in the comments were like, she's schizophrenic, like that's your imaginary friend, like if you can prove it, then I'll believe it, and all this stuff. And it's so hurtful, because it's not what she was doing wasn't harming you. It's okay and perfectly reasonable to call out when something bad in a religious circumstance happens. That's completely valid. But when a girl is just posting about her faith online and the comments are just it's just petty, like meanness. It's just like these little middle school comments of like, you're crazy, kind of. It's your imaginary friend. It's like, do you have anything better to do? Like, yeah, it's like, she's not hurting you. Like, go complain about something else. Like, ugh.
Yeah, it's just a toxic environment, just to pry on the innocence of what's going on. And you look at technology, and that's the scary part of it, with the AI and things like that. It's just a whole long list of scary things. But I think one of the most important things about that is connection, and that's what technology brings, right? We have the ability to connect with so many people around the world through the use of technology, and we are trying to be united, right? Like you said, under one nation, under God. And it's so much easier with the technological advancements that we've made. And so when you're a youth, right? I'm saying that like I'm like 33 years old. Like, yeah, like back in my day when I was a youthful person, but like kids our age, right? The Gen Z, and then Gen Alpha, and then if any betas are out there, they don't. Yeah. So if any betas are listening to this in the future, thanks for listening to this, by the way, if you are listening to this. But, what would you say to them, with their concerns of faith and, the crazy world that we're evolving into?
The future. Yeah,
it's like, it's crazy to see how rapidly we are, developing new technology. And I mean, we talked about this last episode, but the secularized, just like culture of, like Hollywood and those influences that we have is just scary. So what would you say to people that are nervous and scared and don't have that courage to say something for to advocate for their faith?
Yeah, a lot of good points you really covered there, and also talking about the campus ministry and kind of the culmination of my high school career, 1, 2, and then 3 being social media, and for kind of how we can really address faith in the contemporary age. I guess I hope to cover those in the next couple of minutes, but campus ministry has really helped me. Campus ministry has really helped me expand my approach throughout the school, not just through these one-on-one connections I had with my assigned mentees that I would have, 3 mentees that are also Latino, which I thought was pretty interesting, because I would see that now I would have someone that went through the similar experiences with me, if not pretty much the same experiences as me. now in the school and kind of trying my best to uplift them as much as I can, because I guess even with the different like start to their high school career, because we started with COVID, they didn't. However, just seeing that, seeing those connections was really great and really helpful, because I'll just talk about this one person real quick. One of my mentees, I still have a good connection with him, and he still like talks to me every once in a while. I saw him recently at this one event, and I saw him do pretty responsible things to have a good time, enjoy his time at the social event. However, with being responsible and having these responsibilities, of how to act as a pretty much a sanctified person, as I've said about earlier, and I really have seen, and that has kind of been like tangible evidence of my work throughout the last couple of years, especially when it comes to my one-on-three mentoring of these people. As I've said before, I've really tried to really expand. I've really seen my circle be expanded. I guess it could be a sort of tree, but what happened here is that when it comes to connecting with lower classmen, I really saw that I wouldn't just connect with my 3 people. I would connect with additional people in my homeroom. Then in the homeroom I was mentoring it, because it wasn't just me; it was a couple of other people as well. So it was them and me, but I would also connect with other people in the homeroom, because other people in the homeroom would be people I actually knew before. So that was a really nice connection to have with them, because I would really talk to them and just be casual conversations. However, trying my best to really show myself out to the new generation of students that is to come for the school, the future leaders of the school, and kind of expanding my circle little by little. So it went to my homeroom, to then people in the band class, because band is multi grade. It's every single grade, and I would really have good connection, and I would really start to grow the connections between myself and the freshmen, sophomores, juniors of band. Even though I was only in band for part of the school year, I still felt like I built very meaningful connections with the people in band. And it was really fruitful to see their upliftingness as well, because especially with the people I had even closer connections with, it was definitely something where I could like check in on them, and they could ask me questions and whatnot, and it was definitely something very it was definitely an enriching experience to see all this positiveness come forth of people, because of what I can help them do. Because at the end of the day, it's not me moving strings around. It's them making their own personal effort and their personal choice to really pursue these values of community, hope in community, openness to community, and all of that. So another tier, which is pretty much the biggest tier, is pretty much the whole freshman class. And because we would do retreats in campus ministry, we had two retreats where it was like the whole freshman class, or like at least over half of it. So having those experiences, and also telling them the general scope of the fire story and how community can come into that, is definitely helped me make these connections with pretty much the freshman class that heard my story, because it's definitely been something that people have told me, and I have been told that people have said that it's been a real inspiring story, and that they will strive to use the lessons that I taught them in pretty much their everyday life now. So just seeing those wonderful words from those people, that hearing those wonderful words and seeing what they wrote, just has been really cultivating for my just kind of like positivity when it's come to my own efforts, because I've definitely seen that when I see real good progress being made, like when I see my goal being achieved little by little, even if it's just one person that I meet, but if I can help them, it really makes me, pretty much happy, proud, happy for the progress I've done, for the progress I can do. So it's really been something where I've built these connections to campus ministry, and campus ministry has really helped me spread my mission as well. It's really helped me deepen my faith through the topics we do talk about in campus ministry, because it's been something where I can really express my faith certain things such as in school masses and other assemblies that we would have, such as prayer services and whatnot. However, because I would be a prominent person in the campus ministry, I would be chosen to like speak about different things in mass. I would like read lectures, Eucharistic minister, and I would do other things like that. And it was definitely an enriching experience to have to learn how to do a lot of new things, because prior to junior and senior year, I haven't talked in front of the whole school, but it's not like I had stage fright, but it was kind of building that confidence, that further confidence to really connect with the school in a sense. Because even if it's just people looking at me and people being like, oh, that's an interesting person, that's a sort of connection I can have with people. It's like, oh, this person talking about me, like, hey, this guy that's talking in front of the whole school, he's talking about how we need to really be united together. I'll see. Yeah. Even if it's something like that, it's definitely something where I really see true potential and really see true hope for what the community can do, especially going forward, and kind of lighting that fire for other people, as I talked about that fire anecdote. So that's campus ministry. It really helped me with a lot of things, and I'm really grateful. The service project that we had in campus ministry was really very helpful for me, because that was with you, Ref. Yeah, I was the leader of the group. I was the leader of the group, Ref. Yeah, no, I was the leader of the group, and actually, you weren't there, but the first day, like the first meeting session with campus ministry, was kind of deciding who would go in what service groups and who would be like the leader of the service groups and whatnot. So I was there in the table of people. It was like 7-8 people. And when it came time, it's like, okay, now choose your leader. All the fingers pointed to me. But and I was really thankful to have been given this opportunity to them, because I really saw this as an opportunity to make this service project as helpful as possible, because a lot of focus wouldn't have been placed on the service they've been doing if I wouldn't have done a bit of effort myself to make this service project experience as smooth as possible, such as like scheduling and communications and other things that came with the service project. But tutoring at that school, that was at that elementary middle school that was close to our own school, was pretty enriching as well, because it kind of reminded me of my middle school, because that was also a school that had a majority Hispanic population. So it kind of enlivened me again, because it kind of made me come back to like my community, in a sense, the community I grew up in, even though it was a different school. And my middle school has shut down now, so my middle school doesn't really exist. Like it's part of a system. I'll explain all that later. But making those connections with people and helping make the service project be a smooth experience for everyone really helped people focus on what they needed to focus on, if it's helping teachers or if it's helping students directly, because there was a music room and there was an art room we could serve in. In the art room, it would be helping students personally. In the music room, it would be more helping teachers. However, it was kind of like a chain reaction. I did my work so that the campus ministry people in the music room could help the teacher, so that the teacher could help the students, so that the students could learn. So it's pretty much a chain reaction of like where I can really be in control of like how smooth can this process be, and then helping everyone and help that kind of like helping that plant grow, in a sense, helping that plan of enrichment up all the way to the students, because I connect to the campus ministry, which connects to the teacher, which connects to the students. So just that chain reaction of helping this progress was really enlivening, and I hope it really was as smooth as it could be. Rafael, you could definitely give me your thoughts right now.
Yeah, it was, I was okay. So going back to that first CMT meeting that I missed, I mean, it was always when I first heard I couldn't make it, it was unfortunate, because I really wanted to see what was going on. But I think the outcome of that would have remained the same. I mean, I would have voted for you 100%. Like, your ability to make connection with other people is so critical in your own experiences, and I think that's why we get along so often, and it's because we just have that ability to connect with one another. But right, with that server site specifically, right, you saw the impacts, like even with the music teacher, right? I only volunteered for the music classroom, but it was clear, like it did help. Like even the small things that we did, like cleaning the pianos or just tuning the ukulele. Sorry, me tuning the ukuleles and Derek just sitting there. But yeah, just like making our own effort into these small things that really built up to the beautiful effect that it had on the students. And I can't imagine the work that you put into making our lives so much easier. And there were times where I was like, I really don't want to go today. Like, today is not a good day to go. But I always remember like the fact that, this is just one thing I'm doing, right? There are other people that are doing so much more than I am. And it's just, having a moment of reflection and seeing yourself appreciate those small things. So
absolutely. And seeing that day-to-day interaction as well, when I would go with you guys, or I would go by myself, I kind of I don't know, you definitely saw that I kind of took the responsibility of talking with the teachers personally and seeing how they're being helped, or just kind of talking to them, just a quick conversation about what their needs are or stuff like that, especially at the start of the year when it came to their needs. But it definitely was an enriching experience, as you said. And kind of when it comes to connecting with people, I remember for the end of year project about our service site, it was definitely enriching to know that the administration at the school was also very thankful of our efforts to really help the school, because it was definitely, even though it might have just been, okay, we're tuning a ukulele one day, and then we're putting labels on a guitar, or like a piano another day, or like helping a student make a stroke on a canvas, it definitely showed to be something where the administration even saw the impact that we had, even though it was just a group of like 8 people.
Yeah, it was just crazy. I mean, you did the video with E-Dog, so I wasn't there, but it was just crazy to watch that, for the first time. When you obviously when we were presenting for our class, because we were in a different CMT class, so it was. I watched that and I'm like, wow, we really are making an impact. I'm like, really, while you're doing service, you just did not see it at all. Like, dude, I don't even think these kids are like, why are they here? Or, like, who are they? Being those high school students, like, it comes to moments where you're like, do they really look up to us, or do they really see what we're doing? Right. And especially like going back to, our high school, it's like being that role model for the freshman class, like those lower classmen. Do they look up to us, right? Do the things we do impact their view of how they could apply it to their turn as higher classmen? So, when you gain so many skills over the time of your high school career, right? That moment where I see it like most impact is Latino Club. I think you doing that, with that other person really just showed where you've grown and how you've developed into a leader. So how did that experience happen? Because I'm not Latino, so I wasn't involved. But how did that come about?
Yeah, so I guess there were a couple of contributing factors to it, I guess. First of all, a big thing was like the time for representation is now. We really wanted to connect to the school community, and we really wanted to really say how we wanted to be in the school community, considering the school already did a ton of things concerning the Latino population, such as implementations in masses and other school events. However, we found it helpful to say we want to do it in an official way, with an organized manner, where the that's where pretty much the club came in, where we also can help our club members in certain things, where it's not just an organization club, but it's also like a helpfulness club. So yeah, year prior, our junior year, you and Ref, but it was there was a sort of Hispanic club that began. However, kind of didn't really take off anywhere because it was just talking, and just in abstract topics, and it really, no, we didn't gain nothing because it wasn't necessarily goal oriented or anything like that. But this year, senior year, I really saw a difference. Like, hey, we really need to do something. There are a lot of things that we can cover. There are a lot of things we can do. And I was actually working on it over the summer while I was at the college campus taking classes. So having that plan in mind, I said I would make a plan over the summer, and I made the plan over the summer of how we would go forth with our goals, missions, ambitions, etc. So basically what I did was just like I made this document, and then at the start of the year I met with the other person that would be helping me with the club, and we just kind of talked about how we were gonna bring this up to administration, because of course we want administration to know, first of all, to make sure they know who's behind all these things that go behind all these Latino implementations and like masses assemblies and all of that. So I formulated a document that kind of explained our goals, missions, ambitions, and how it can really contribute to the school community. Because another goal of the club wasn't to really separate ourselves or create a faction in the community, but really say, hey, let's huddle up and let's say, this is how we want to serve the community. We want to be in the school community. We want to be of the school community. We want to be with the school community. So we really had that ambition to really say, hey, we are with the school community. We are not separating ourselves whatsoever. We are being with each other. And we really want to have this common goal in mind to say, hey, we want to progress the things we want to progress. We want to help each other, but we also want to really like have that in mind that we are the students of the school, and that we have a common goal to, first of all, succeed in school, but then also to include our culture and include stuff like that. So as you all definitely saw, we had a lot of different projects, a lot of visual projects, and a lot of things said, and like assemblies and all that when it came to the Latino community at the school. But it definitely was something where in the club I would create good and meaningful connections with the lower classmen, and I would have and I would really want to point out this one person real quick that really trusted me with a lot of things they wanted to say, and they really talked about how they really gained insight and kind of like a new way of living, I guess, in a sense, from what I have taught through my kind of like indirect lessons, as I've talked about how indirect lessons have really impacted people and helped people in whatever goals they had. So it definitely was something where I tried my best to uplift other students, and I've seen those efforts really be shown. Yeah, passing this off to the future generations of the school is definitely important as well, because we want to have effects on people in the long run, and we hope to really expand the outreach of the club in many different ways, not just supporting the school with what we say, but also with what we do, because the service project was a culmination of our work as a club, and getting that published on the school's social media was really helpful to really get that recognition. Our name was really recognized throughout the school, but now to have this like official recognition to like families, that was like the next cornerstone step, and just helping the lower classmen was wonderful. That when you're talking about social media, it's definitely something where it's something you really want to cultivate for yourself, because when it comes to social media, it's really adapted to your tastes and your likes, pretty much what you like, what you see. And the way I've really had that be beneficial to me is I've conditioned my social media to show me posts of like Catholic organizations such as like Vatican News, EWTN, and Catholic TV, and a lot of different social media outlets as well. And it definitely can be used for good purposes. There are definitely very sinful uses of social media as well, which are very which is something I'm trying my best to get away from. But it's definitely something where it's really I can really condition myself to and condition the social media to say, hey, okay, we get that you're Catholic. We'll show you the Catholic content you want, and that's been really beneficial for me.
What do you say to the younger generation that, okay, don't flame me here because I know I'm part of that younger generation, but just in context, like what do you say to them who are afraid to either share their faith, or they're afraid of what other people will think of them, or they're afraid of the society that we are growing to, that is becoming more secularized, and thus being more harsher on Catholicism specifically?
Yeah, so a big thing, I'll talk about the general Christian sense because that's what I've really grown myself in, but I've really incorporated my Catholic beliefs into this. But finding groups that specialize in faith in action, and especially in apologetics, because that apologetics is pretty much a true way to really defend your faith and all that. I joined a local area youth ministry chapter, which is a national organization that works in a ton of different states and a ton of different cities. But the local chapter here has really helped me, and the connections that I made through that has really helped me to deepen my faith and really strengthen my faith. And we all have that common goal and interest to really strengthen each other and to really strengthen ourselves in the faith. So just finding those groups and kind of finding that truth in apologetics that we can really use to strengthen our own faith, and to really say, hey, I really do have good hope, because say, for example, hey, now I have pretty much tangible evidence that really points to the fact that, first of all, the basis of faith, God is real and stuff like that. I really see faith through prayer be something really special and really strengthening to oneself and to others, really, because God really has 3 responses when it comes to prayer. And it's definitely a two-way relationship, a two-way conversation when it comes to prayer. It's you'll always get a response from God, and it's and it can really be divided into 3 responses: yes, later, or I have something better from God. So having those 3 responses, having faith that you can have one of those 3 responses, is really something that can really be beneficial to you. And if it is, then maybe something better, it can really strengthen you to really look out into the world and not just be grounded in one one option, to really have that diversity in options that you may strive for, that you may want to have, that you eventually will have, that can really help you really strengthen yourself and really achieve your common goals. I guess in my sense, the whole community, hope in community, openness to community, and all the wonderful things that come along with having these connections made, whether it's personal, whether it's with other people or groups or everyone, really.
Yeah, I think it's just a good segue to wrap this up, is just seeing how prayer has connected everyone in the different ways that we could pray, right? You have having gratitude for the things you have, and then seeing from what you see is creating something that you can provide for other people, right? Going back to that service. But I think that prayer is just a great way to talk to God, right? Because prayer can be a conversation. It can be something that you can use to connect with Him. I think you try to pray the rosary every day, or do whatever, right? Doing those daily prayers or the nightly prayers, if you ever have those set routines.
Yeah, absolutely. And in prayer, I really have a foundational principle that really guides my prayers, especially at night, because I have an everyday night prayer. And it starts with, and the main foundation and the main kind of like value that I have here is think before you ask. So really thanking God for the position you are in, really considering where you are at, really grounding yourself and saying, I'm here, I'm now here, I'm now thinking about this. What has led me here? The first thing that should come to mind is really the grace of God, because the grace of God is what really helps one really ground yourself and really be you, really, because we were created with free will. However, we really want to use that free will in a good sense, where we can really uplift not just ourselves but each other, but really being grateful for that position we have been placed in, where then we can ask for something, where we can really have these three things. Because what we really want to have in our prayer and our thoughts when it comes to God is three simple ones. Yay, God. We have thank you, God. And we have please, God. So for the yay, God, it's definitely something where it's like you have glory, glory be to the Father, to the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Or where you have thanks, God. That's where I really start my prayers in. It's like, thank you, God, for everything that you have given me. Thank you for this life. Thank you for letting me be here today. Stuff like that. And then please, God, that's where we make our intentions. Like, hey, God, either if it's like, God, I'm going through a difficult time, or if it's, God, I'm having a great time, but please help me keep this positive attitude during this great time. Or just trying your best to really be as optimistic, but just at the end of the day, just trying to be as optimistic as possible when it comes to our faith and the connection we have with prayer, and how we can really use that to really strengthen ourselves and strengthen others, because it truly is something that can help us achieve our goals and purposes as is to be truly intended.
Yes. Yeah. I think one of the beauty things of prayer is it's really personal, right? You can pray how is much more comfortable for you, right? You have many prayers that you could take, right? You could have, that conversational type of prayer where you are just talking with God, right? Because ultimately there's only two people involved in that type of prayer. It's just you and him, right? That's that one-on-one scenario. But also you could have, intentional prayers. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say you could pray, 10 Our Fathers, but have a different intention for each one. And, that can be used for people who can't find the words, what to say. They can't, they're just unsure of what to ask for or what to do with their specific intention, so they just offer up whatever they're thinking about during that Our Fathers.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I've definitely seen be helpful is kind of like a silent prayer, where you let your heart speak out, because it's not something where issues or topics may come to mind right away, but it's something that your heart truly knows, your soul truly knows about. So having that silent time and just kind of having that communion with God in that moment you are praying, whether it's 15 seconds, a minute, or however long you want it to be, it can be really helpful. And another thing I really want to say about prayer is that to make prayer, I guess, a better thing for people, I guess, a lesson I would want to teach now is to say, try to let prayer be enjoyable and customizable, because you can really pray in a lot of variety of ways. Like you just told me, like it could be a conversation, or it could be something very strict, like it could be something where it's like, yeah, so God, I'm not having a great time right now, or like you're like, God, gotta say it's been wonderful for the last couple of days, either one, or but just trying to make it customizable to your needs and make it like a true conversation you would have, say, with someone, but like with God, that can truly provide with you with the three responses we really talked about with if you are making a petition of any sort. But definitely having that prayer be customizable can definitely make it enjoyable and definitely make it a lot more productive. Or even if it's just like, okay, I really want to ground myself and I really want to have and I really want to say something, like a repetitive, like say a rosary, that's like it's repetitive, but it's a really enriching prayer. to help us really strengthen our connection with God through the intercession of the Holy Blessed Mother. And another prayer I would say is that has really helped me be really, I guess, penitent, has been the Jesus prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me, a sinner. Repeating that as many times until your heart really feels it, and then once your heart really does feel it, kind of saying it with your heart every single time with a sort of like intention, or kind of like in your mind have like a I'm sorry for this every time you say, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Have something like, I've sinned in this way, but like have that be like a thought in here, and not be necessary. It doesn't necessarily have to be something where it's like the prayer plus sorry God blank 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 blank. It could just be repeating the prayer over and over again, and it can definitely but having that true intention in mind of being penitent and trying your best to really connect with God through your petition of forgiveness is really enriching as well, because it can really help you feel, I guess, better and in a sense forgiven as well.
Yeah, I think a type of prayer that I think we all would consider is prayer through song. And like when you, like me personally, that's just my best way of doing it. Because I feel like I lose myself if I keep, if I have that intentional type of prayer. But when I sing or when I praise worship, it's always, okay, here, God, this is my intention for this song, and I'm going to offer it up to you through this. And then you just have for me, it's just a constant intentional intercession. When, even though I'm singing the words, even though I'm strumming the chords, it is always just being mindful of the intention. And I think in the way that we look at prayer is just attuned to what we experience, right? And when we look at our favorite prayers that we pray, if I'm going a top 5 here in no particular order, I would say man, this is tough. I think we would just prayer is just so powerful. Each prayer is so good, but I think, in no particular order, I think it's the litanies, right? The litany of trust, the litany of humility. Those two are really important to grounding yourself and offering up. I think the Padre Pio chaplet is something that is so easy to do and so easy to understand. Obviously, you got the Lord's Prayer, the prayer that Jesus taught us, which is really important into those types of things. But then you also have the Rosary, right, dedicated to the Virgin Mary, and that is just that's one of the most common intentional type prayers that you have. But the last one, I think, the prayer of St. Michael, that is, God asking for that protection. And, having siblings that are named after said angels, it is very, it's just a very constant reminder of, prayer. So those are my top 5. I guess I have to honorable mention the Divine Mercy Chaplet. That one's really good too. So, but yeah, if you guys would like to share your top 5
prayers.
Top 5 prayers.
I'm pretty basic when it comes to prayer. I mean,
it's personal, so
it is very personal for me. My prayer growing up has always been more of a conversation with God. A lot of the recited prayers. Well, I love the Rosary, obviously. Catholic girl. And in 8th grade at my middle school, we did this thing where they would the whole 8th grade class would nominate 2 people, a boy and a girl, who had the attributes of Mary, and display them to the class through service and kindness. And I was picked. And ever since then, the Rosary has just always held a special place in my heart, but I feel like it does with every Catholic. But prayer to me has always been, it's been more important to have it be a conversation back and forth with God, a lot of meditation in the middle, just to think and absorb what God is telling me. And I think every song that I sing in a form is a prayer. But if I did have to have memorized prayers, the act of contrition, I know that that's random, but there was a version that I learned as a little girl, and it's always been just a very important prayer to me, especially coming out of a time in my life where I didn't always have the strongest faith. And just reconciling with God through that prayer has always just been very important to me. But yeah, I think recited prayers have never always really called me. I should look into more, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think that just shows how different prayer can be for like different people. So
for me, I definitely have the act of contrition in my prayer list too, because I definitely feel like it's definitely something where it's a petition, you know,
Yes.
and we always sin, that's our nature, but it's definitely something where we can try our best to be the best version of ourselves and really be penitent of what we can do, you know. The Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy, that all goes into one. I really like mass prayers, so I really like the Gloria. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to people of the world.
Mass of St. Anne.
Man, okay, we can get to another deep episode of Mass
Yeah.
Songs. Oh, podcast idea.
Podcast idea.
I am writing that down. Yeah, but anyway, sorry, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, so the Gloria, I really like the Gloria, and another one I really like is the Creed, because it really establishes our doctrine of Catholic faith, and it really has that kind of like grounding us to what we believe in and all that. And of course, the prayer, you know, Jesus himself taught us people the Our Father. The Our Father is really an essential one for me, because it really shows like, okay, like everything is yours, God, you know, like you know, that is really a good one, because I really believe that it's also really helps us connect with God. Even if you just think about it, you know, you still like, hey, it's a good prayer, because it really talks about what we ask from God and what God does for us. So that's the Our Father. And then another one I like is the Guardian Angel prayer. I really like the Guardian Angel prayer. One of my favorites. I would always pray when I was a kid, and it's just been something really that has been really you know, strong for me, because, you know, we all have our guardian angel, and it's just wonderful to have that real connection with God through the guardian angel. So it's been, wonderful having that connection with prayer.
Yes, I love the Guardian Angel prayer as well. It was always a prayer that my family would say every night, along with our family prayer that we made up ourselves. So that is an important written prayer to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that prayer is just a, you know, special place that we hold in our hearts. And, you know, going back to what we talked about this episode, right? Having, you know, that sense of community, that sense of connection, having that faith in God is really important for us to notice and to acknowledge. And so I pray that, you know, everyone who is listening to this, you know, can achieve those connections, can have that faith, and to be involved in the community that makes you a better man or woman, God.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that this was a wonderful discussion, and thank you for being with us today, Jake. I think we covered a lot on how community and prayer can really strengthen your faith, especially through your story. And with that, I think this closes our first guest episode of the Crazy Catholics podcast. And today we covered strengthening your faith with our friend Jake. And I learned so much from this episode, and I hope you all did too. And as always, Raph and I are very excited to share our thoughts with you. So make sure to join us for our future episodes.
And I'm very grateful to be here.
yeah, Jake, I think we'll see more of you.
Yes, really, hopefully.
Yes. Thank you for this opportunity.
Always welcome back.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
So thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Crazy Catholics Podcast. We really appreciate your support. Please be sure to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify at Crazy Catholics Podcast. And be sure to tune in for next week's episode of For Emma Forever Ago, a Bon Iver review. If you know me, I'm a huge Bon Iver fan, so I'm real excited for you guys to hear this episode. What's up, guys? It's Editing Raph, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to this episode. This episode took so much time, so much effort to edit and record, and so I really appreciate you listening to the whole 2-hour plus episode, and I will see you in the next one. As always, I'm your host, Raph, joined by my amazing co-host, Gianna. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and remember to walk by faith.
Bye.